receives death threats.
That's Craig on the phone, being told our lives are in danger. To be clear, when I call this a dream job, that's not the part I'm referring to. Good morning from New Jersey. We're staying here because it's near a lot of the shit we're going to be doing. Now it's time for the first important task of every single day. Go check if Craig is still alive. So I'm going to tell 2 stories today. One is a story of our second week together in New York. That'll be happening in dark mode. Also, my origin story and how I got this job. That happens here in bright mode. And at the very end of this episode, yes, you will hear the very threats that Craig is hearing on the phone. All right, we're just grabbing some coffee. Craig is alive. It's just he's been getting calls till 3 a.m. Some mischievous promoters trying to intertwine themselves with everything, but people are holding strong. So the plan for New York is a bunch of podcasts and some personal stuff for Craig. He's gonna try and see if he can get us UFC tickets, which would be incredible because I've never been to UFC before. Very excited, happy to be in Jersey and happy to be headed to New York, and let's see what happens. Craig's got some stuff to do, so I went out to grab us some lunch. I'm gonna eat quickly. It's a bagel since I'm in New York. I also did other stereotypical New York things, like go try to look at the Statue of Liberty, realize there's construction going on, point at it, and then walk out to this park here. The first podcast we visit is the Ariel Helwani Show, which is like an interesting one because it's live and also it has a big like crossover MMA audience. And part of the logic for marketing our grappling tournament is to appeal to adjacent MMA fans as well. Ariel's also an interesting one because he's managed to grow his business despite being completely cut off and despised by UFC Chief Enthusiasm Officer Dana White. The first thing I noticed when we get to Ariel's is, to the public, it looks like a nice little almost home studio with all the toys and everything. But on the back end, it's like a super sophisticated live TV broadcast setup. And I recognize that. It looks super familiar to me for a reason. This, by the way, is a segue to the first part of my origin story here. This is completely before the Craig era. But if you want to understand how I got the job, it probably helps to understand who got the job. Now, I wanted to start with a photo from my past that would effectively show you why I had this strange, lonely obsession with making videos. And I found this one right here, which kind of makes me laugh. That's me in public high school in Hong Kong. Look at how happy everybody else is. It's like they're having a literal communist party. Now look at me. We don't have high school shooters here in Asia, so naturally I became a film nerd. TV, movies, I became obsessed with all of it. And my dream, the greatest job in the world, would be to be involved in any way with making that shit. And in hindsight, I didn't watch stuff like normal kids. I would like make notes the whole time. I would try and turn it into scripts. And when I started making my own little weird videos, I started the way most people start. Doing it all myself and with whatever I had access to at the time. My mom may have missed the train on Bollywood, but she was always a star in my videos. And when I finished high school, I made a very Asian deal with my parents. They said, look, just get a business degree, and after that, if you still want to pursue this weird filmmaking thing, then that's on you. My university didn't take attendance, so I almost never went to class. I spent most of my time doing one of 2 things. Number 1, working odd jobs, saving as much money as humanly possible so I could make a movie. And number 2, just forcing myself every single day to watch 6 to 8 hours of classic movies and TV. Like, I wasn't in film school, so that was basically my film school. By some miracle, I still graduated. I remember I took all my savings, I got a 6-month tourist visa, and I went to America. I literally went to America to try and make it as a director. And even though I actually had no idea what I was doing, I actually got a bunch of DIY pilots shot, and I wrote a bunch of scripts, and I tried to get stuff made. Eventually I ran out of money and I ran out of visa, so I decided to go back home to Hong Kong and enter the job market, and it couldn't have been a better time. It was the start of the 2008 financial crisis. I remember there was only one Western media company in Hong Kong at the time, and because of the financial crisis they weren't hiring, so I just kept applying. I believe I applied about 40 times in 1 year, and eventually they're just like, please stop applying, we'll give you like an internship. And I was like, fuck it, I'll take it. They gave me a trolley
And they said, go around the office and just deliver tapes to people. Like producers may want a copy of a show or this footage or that. So I'd go there, here you go, sir. And it was actually a really good gig in hindsight because I could go around the office, I could see what everybody did, and I could go around fishing for real work. Like, psst, you need some help? You need me to edit this? Do you need this? Do you need that? And over time, I actually started to get a bit of creative experience under my belt, editing. Then suddenly I was in this commercial, and then I would do a bit of what's called content strategy. Like before algorithms, actual humans would decide and make assumptions on what people would want to watch. And it turns out I was almost like phenomenal at it. I would decide what people wanted to watch and I would do it and the numbers would blow up. So I made another very Asian deal, this time with my company. I was like, hey, listen, if you want, I'm happy to keep doing that. Just let me make a few shows every once in a while, right? Because that's really what I want to do. That's where my heart's at. And my career started to take off after that. Over a few years, the intern with the trolley suddenly had titles like general manager, senior director, head of direct-to-consumer. I got to work for companies and brands and my inspirations like Anthony Bourdain and Louis Theroux worked for. And I started producing famous shows that a lot of people knew, like RuPaul's Drag Race and stuff like that. But as my career kept growing, the amount of time I spent making shows and movies and videos kept going down to the point where I was not even confident I could do it anymore. I developed this complete and utter crippling imposter syndrome. The guy who held a camera since he was a kid, the guy who loved making stuff himself, I hadn't fed him in so long, I may have actually killed him. And I don't think that's a price I was willing to pay. Doesn't matter how fancy the title is or how big the show is. And so 14 years into this media career, I had to quit. All right, we just got done at Helwani's. The Helwani interview ended up being so much better than the Rogan one because he was down and he kind of understood the disruptor nature of the event. And Craig did a really great job like communicating why this kind of rebel tournament he's trying to get together is so important and why monopolies are so bad for the sport. For example, while Jiu-Jitsu has grown over the years, the one tournament, ADCC, has kept athlete pay the same since 1998. And to add insult to injury, they were going to spend $2 million on renting an arena and fancy pyrotechnics and stuff. All Craig wanted was for them to pay the athletes a little more money and to pay women the same. They told him to fuck off. And they said, if you care so much, start your own tournament. And now he's doing it. And suddenly, there was a lot of bad blood between them. I'm gonna try and turn something big around in like 24 hours. You know, not the same as the usual B-Team vlogs, which I like, but this is gonna be something different. We were accumulating a lot of really good footage at this point, so Craig asked me if I could edit them into vlogs. And like, at this stage, given my background, like I knew the power of a series, I knew there was a really good story here, and I knew I had just the right style to tell it, but also, like I know how hard it is editing a series while you're traveling. Part of me was a bit nervous to put my work out there. But at the same time, it was also a chance for me to test an idea I had actually already pitched Craig in the past. Honestly, the following year was an emotional roller coaster between feeling free, feeling lost, and feeling terrified. I passed the time by making little YouTube videos and trying different styles. You can see my videos where I was trying to be a bit more like Casey Neistat. I was trying to be a bit more like Emma Chamberlain. You can see the ones where I was trying to be more like Johnny Harris. And it was like earlier in my career again. I was filming everything myself. I was editing it myself and just filming whatever I had access to. Cleaning under your bed? Film it. You're going on holiday? Film it. I remember at one point when I was running out of ideas for stuff to make videos about, my girl was like, hey, why don't you just shave all your body hair off and see if your jiu-jitsu improves? And I did it. Not knowing she was kidding. My body hair's never been the same, by the way. A few months later, I saw Craig was hosting a week-long jiu-jitsu camp in Phuket, Thailand. And I'd started to feel a bit anxious about money again at this point. So even though I was like a super big fan of his, a jiu-jitsu holiday just seemed a bit too much of a splurge at this point. So I just kind of convinced myself that, hey, you know what? if I can get a video out of this, then maybe it's worth a shot. So I flew down to Phuket, and the camp was actually really fun, and I filmed some of the behind the scenes on my phone, and it was so low key. I think people just thought I was filming for social media. It didn't look like I was trying to film like a vlog or anything like that. I turned it into a story and edited it together when I got home and dropped it, and people really liked it. And it kind of went baby viral. It got like 10,000 views in 1 or 2 days or something. And I should have figured this at the time, but Craig loves watching videos about Craig. So of course he saw my video, and he reposted it a couple of times, and that was pretty cool. And this is not how I got the job, but you can see this is kind of like a start, slowly building towards something. I think it was a couple of months later, I found out Craig was actually passing through Singapore, where I lived, for the ADCC Asia trials, and he was gonna host a seminar with Joseph at the gym I train at. And so I reached out to my gym owner. I was like, hey, you know the guy who made the Phuket video? If you need a free videographer while you're in town, I'm around. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Even though he wasn't paying me for this, I actually had a holiday planned in Hong Kong with my girl for the same week he was in town, and I canceled it, and I paid the cancellation fee. So I was going out of pocket just to be able to shoot with him for free. But I figured, you know what? Last time I made a video, he didn't even know I was making a video. This time, like, we'll be working on this together. So for me, it was worth it. Even though I didn't think of this as like an audition or a job application by any means, there were a lot of things about the experience that I think in hindsight were very useful. I got to spend time with him. I wasn't too pushy. I was helpful. I was chill. I did my own thing, but I also worked very hard the whole time. You know, and since we were getting along pretty well, after the first day of filming, I decided to shoot my shot and ask him if it's okay if I pitch him an idea. And he said, yeah, sure. I'm actually there at trials tomorrow with my business partner. And so I pitched him this idea for this series in this style that I like, which is like not overproduced, very authentic, very run and gun. You know, it's like an adventure travel series type of thing. And since I worked for like the streamers in the past, having me on the team was like having a cheat code. Like I knew how to pitch, I knew how to get stuff approved, I knew how to get stuff distributed. And I think he was open to it, but also a bit maybe overwhelmed with all the other stuff going on. And his business partner is there as well, and like he's a nice guy, but also had a bit of like a car salesman vibe, so I couldn't quite read him. You know, after they left, I edited my video together, and people seemed to dig it again, which is really nice. And then Craig continued to just wander the earth doing his thing, and I never heard back from them again. So I decided to just take matters into my own hands.
I like that all your butt plugs are silvers. They must fucking remind you of me.
I showed Craig and his business partner the video.
Dude, good job, bro.
That's sick.
And they loved it. And I remember the feeling of typing my name in those credits at the end and thinking, holy shit. I remember like buying this idiot's OnlyFans rash guard online, and now here I am in New York making videos with him. I pitched a few names for the series with the preference for Road to CJI, and then published it. Dropped my first ever video on B-Team's channel. I was a bit nervous, and I didn't know how people would react, but also at the same time, I was like, you know what? The guys back home in Asia, in Singapore, in my home gym, they're gonna be proud of me no matter what, and they're gonna get a kick out of this. Here in Asia, we have something called TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And when you walk into one of those clinics, like it hits you straight away like a punch in the face. You know, the smell of the herbs. And when you walk into a 10th Planet Jiujitsu, pretty much the same. We hang out with the folks after taking photos with them and chat with them, and they are totally vibing with what Craig is trying to do with the tournament, which is super exciting to hear. If you guys are vibing with this video series, by the way, help me make my subscriber count high like 10th Planet, high like Eddie Bravo on goddamn SpaceX by smashing that subscribe button. Shout out to CC, Ray, Uncle Eddie, and all the 10th Planet homies around the world. Back to the video. We then head to Luke Thomas, MMA journalist's podcast, and Craig starts to talk about how he's been receiving death threats. And for the first time, I started to realize, like, oh shit, this guy's serious about this stuff. He's not just goofing around. I'm actually in the corner filming behind the scenes and somehow end up screwing up one of the 2 remaining podcasts we have on this trip.
That's what he said. Yeah, he gets skinny. I don't know what he weighs right now, but he'd be perfect for the 80 kilo.
What the fuck?
So after ADCC Asia, Craig was back again on the road doing his thing. And you know, I started to think seriously about the fact that, hey, like, I have all this experience pitching. I have all this experience coming up with show ideas. I have a ton of experience getting things made. And like, if I can do it for all these companies, why can't I do a scaled down version like for myself? I came up with an idea for a documentary series about Joseph Chen. And I've known Joseph since he was like 16. So I wasn't like reaching out cold, but he kindly connected me with his sponsors. And I did my thing. And the next thing I knew, I had funding. I had funding to last me at least 6 months and the opportunity to travel from time to time with Joseph and try and tell this kind of deep story. How did he get so good so quickly? What is he truly really like as a person? And I could do this intimately because for the first time in a long time, I was getting paid to make videos, but this time I was getting paid to do it with the camera in my hands. One of the stops on my tour with Joseph was actually Bali, and Craig happened to be there as well. And Craig actually generously cameoed a bit in my documentary. And as a thank you, I asked him, do you need anything shot while you're here? And he said, yeah, just a little me talking to camera. So I helped him do that. And then we went our separate ways again. Like a month later, I was on my last big shoot with Joseph. This time it was in Shanghai, and I was actually sleeping on the floor of his bedroom. And I remember I got 2 messages like almost at the same time, one from Craig and one from his business partner, and they're both like, hey, opportunity knocks. Craig explains to me, hey, look, I just got some funding from a mystery investor, tournaments in 100 days, I need somebody to travel with me and make videos. By the way, we'll probably be in the Ukraine for a couple of weeks. And what's crazy is that when Craig finally eventually told me why he reached out to me and offered me this role, it was for a reason I could never have imagined.
I don't know what he weighs right now, but he'd be perfect for the 80 kilo.
What the fuck?
I bumped into a light switch in the middle of their live podcast, which is clumsy and super embarrassing, but thankfully
Is this your guy?
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on, dude?
they were nice about it and managed to turn it into a joke.
I didn't even know he was there. You fucking snuck up on me like a ninja.
That's racist because it's in the dark.
Well, okay. I was focusing on you. I'm sorry. I wasn't looking around.
Speaking of bumping into things, the next morning I go to pick up some coffees for us. I got my camera in hand and the barista is being super friendly. And he's like, oh, what are you filming? All of that. So I explained to him, it's Craig Jones, grappler guy, funny, kind of retarded. And then he's like, and then I hear an accent behind me. Craig Jones? I turn around and I shit you not, there was a man in full UFC tracksuit. Like what they wear before they walk out to fight? Like he was in that full kit. He had a beard like Hamzat, and he just looks at me emotionless and he's like, Craig Jones. And I'm just like silent for a minute thinking about all the dumb shit Craig has said about his culture and his people. And then all I could think of to say at the time was, hi, are you a UFC fighter? Then he explains to me, he's like, no, I'm in Islam Makhachev's team. I helped them and stuff. And then I really didn't know what to say. I was like, you like jiu-jitsu? He's just like, no. And I was like, oh fuck, this is not gonna end well. And then he's like, I like Craig. I'm like, what? Craig, I have a secret message for you.
Craig, assalamu alaikum from Dagestan. You are the best guy.
It's cool to see, despite all the jokes and everything, I think there is some form of respect between people who are skilled at martial arts, even if one of them is a raging homosexual. I'm here in Central Park. I'm scouting out locations for Craig's interview with Ffion later. And Craig usually shoots his podcast in like a like a garage or a type of studio. So I wanted something nice for this conversation. And I thought it was a very important conversation. So I put a lot of care into this. ADCC apparently was not treating their female athletes well. They're paying them less than men for no particular reason. And according to Ffion, they cared so little about her, even though she was a defending champion, that when she told the organizers she was going to leave and do CJI, they literally could not give less of a shit. They didn't even try and ask her to stay. And then after she left, apparently they just went on a live and raised women's pay just to spite her.
That doesn't mean anything to me. Easy. Done. Official.
So I respected Craig a lot for the awareness and to give her a platform and to give her a showcase spot on the big show. And in the first episode of Road to CJI, the first scene, I made sure to put her story up in front and to show that she was really able to move the needle. And I realized that Ffion, for some reason, can be polarizing to some, and even Craig has had beef with her, to be fair. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things to me that I think you have to respect. Number one, she was one of the first legit athletes to sign up for CJI. She left ADCC and she took that risk. You gotta respect that no matter what. And second, Ffion donated her entire fight purse to a charity. She donated it to, I think, Medical Aid for Palestine or something like that, which means Ffion is one of only two people. Her and Craig are literally the only two people who did not make $1 from CJI. And you gotta respect that. I was pretty happy with the way the conversation went. I barely even need to edit anything. So I just put it together and uploaded it. And as soon as it's uploaded, I found out that the mics were not set up correctly. I never used those mics before, and I was told it's fine, just hit record, they work well. But apparently that was not the case. And every single comment was about the bad audio. All the stuff I wanted people to focus on was not the focus. And that was obviously a nightmare for me. Thankfully, people started commenting on what they were talking about, and the B-Team audience is used to bad audio. So they just kind of laughed it off. I felt very bad about it, and I still feel bad about it to this day. So before we wrap up this New York story with all the death threats and all that stuff, let's just wrap up the job story. Why did Craig offer me this role? Was it because of my obsession, because I dedicated my whole life to making videos? Was it my great storytelling? Was it my ability to pitch? Was it my connections to streaming networks? Was it because I did it for free? Did he feel bad for me because I left a good career to do this shit? Could he see all the great things we could do together? Nope. All of that helped a little bit, but none of that was it. So why me? Craig had just recently seen me doing the damn thing for Joseph. Literally, exactly what he wanted. I was literally the last person he saw doing it. So he thought, let me just call this guy and ask him if he wants to do it. That's it. There's no grand thought. There was no orchestration. Is that luck? Is that preparation meets opportunity? Is that destiny? Maybe a little bit of all three. But if I'm being completely honest, I think he was just being lazy. I was just the first guy he thought of. And you know what? That's perfectly okay. A bit of negotiation, and I think less than 2 weeks later, I was on a plane headed towards Austin. And the rest is history. Every video we made together for that first Road to CJI series was 5 to 30 times the average for B-Team's channel at the time. And I think that series, that first run, got 5 million views. Him, me, a camera, and a laptop. Run around the world and trying not to die. But obviously, I didn't know any of that was going to happen at the time. That was the future. What I was finding out currently at this time was that a lot of billionaires and sheiks and very powerful people were involved with ADCC.
What's these death threats?
And the people who have been running it for years take it a lot more personally and a lot more seriously than I would have ever imagined.
He told me in the phone, like, Gabby, this bitch asshole come out with like 1 million, who go compete for us, and I know where his address, I know like everything, but on the dark web. And I told like, you crazy? Like,
you know, one of the things you learn in writing is a character is defined by the choices they make. Even more so when there are consequences.
you need to contact people, forgive you.
Would you have kept going? In the next episode,
You're the last person ever to talk about transparency.
things with ADCC get way more personal. Craig gets the most powerful witches in Europe to curse his enemies, and we attempt to hold the largest seminar in Romanian history. If you enjoyed this video and want some more, YouTube recommends these ones right here. Love you guys. Bye.